In the quiet room where shadows breathed slowly, my eyes learned the language of sorrow. No voice spoke, yet silence screamed, and tears became the only translators of the heart. The night sat beside me like an old friend, watching memories fall one by one, like fragile glass slipping from trembling hands. Nothing broke louder than my own thoughts. I closed my eyes to escape the world, but pain lived behind the eyelids. Every blink carried a hidden storm. Every tear carried an unfinished goodbye. The mirror asked questions I could not answer, because sadness erased my reflection. I stood there, half human, half memory, searching for a version of myself that still smiled. Loneliness walked barefoot across my chest, leaving footprints made of cold echoes. Even the wind refused to comfort me, as if it knew healing was not meant tonight. My eyes burned without fire, aching without wounds anyone could see. People called it tiredness, but they never listened to silent suffering. I watched happiness pass like a distant train, its lights fading before I could wave. Hope waited at the station alone, holding a ticket that was never used. The moon understood my language, because it too shined with borrowed light. It hung above me, incomplete, yet glowing, a broken circle, pretending to be whole. Inside my chest lived a quiet storm, thunder trapped behind polite smiles. I laughed among crowds like an actor, then cried where no applause existed. My eyes told stories my lips refused, stories written in invisible ink. Only the night could read them clearly. Only darkness knew my real name. Memories returned like uninvited rain, soaking every corner of my peace. I tried to hide beneath distraction, but sorrow always found the door unlocked. Someone once promised forever, yet forever ended without warning. Their absence became my shadow, following me even under sunlight. I asked my heart why it still waited, why it refused to forget kindness. It answered softly through pain, because love does not learn endings easily. The silence between breaths felt heavy, as if air itself carried grief. Even time walked slower around me, respecting the funeral inside my soul. I counted nights instead of dreams, measured life in quiet breakdowns. Morning arrived like an obligation, never like a blessing anymore. My eyes searched faces for warmth, but found only passing strangers. Everyone moved with purpose, while I wandered inside invisible ruins. Tears became familiar companions, never judging, never leaving. They understood the weight of memories and flowed without asking permission. I wished pain made a sound, so someone might hear it, but silent suffering hides perfectly, wearing normality like a mask. The stars blinked above patiently, as if counting my unspoken wishes. I made none, afraid of disappointment, afraid hope would betray me again. Sometimes I smiled accidentally, then felt guilty for forgetting sadness. Joy seemed like a borrowed emotion, one I had no right to keep. My eyes held oceans without shores, waves crashing against invisible walls. No one saw the floods inside, because calm faces deceived the world. I walked through memories carefully, like ruins of a sacred city. Every corner whispered your name, every silence answered with absence. The heart remembers what logic erases, and mine refused mercy. It replayed moments endlessly, turning seconds into eternal wounds. Even sleep avoided my company, afraid of drowning in my dreams. When it finally arrived, nightmares replaced rest gently. I woke carrying exhaustion deeper than sleep, eyes heavier than unshed tears. Morning light felt unfamiliar, like kindness from a stranger. Pain settled quietly within me, not loud enough to alarm anyone. It learned patience, waiting behind every blink. If eyes could speak aloud, the world would tremble at their truth. But silence protects the broken, hiding fragility from careless eyes. I wondered how many people walked beside me, carrying storms disguised as calm skies. Perhaps we were all silently drowning, pretending to swim gracefully. The heart whispered apologies to itself for loving too deeply. Yet love remained innocent, even when it became suffering. My reflection faded into questions, and answers dissolved like fog. Who was I before sadness arrived? I could no longer remember clearly. Still, my eyes stayed open, waiting for a miracle without expectation. Because even in pain, a small light refuses extinction. The night returned again without knocking, sitting beside my loneliness like destiny. Its darkness wrapped around my shoulders, a blanket woven from forgotten promises. My eyes stayed awake long after hope slept, watching shadows crawl across the walls. Each movement reminded me gently that time moves even when hearts refuse. I listened to silence carefully, as if it might finally explain everything. But silence only deepened its mystery, answering questions with heavier quiet. Some pains do not bleed outward. They bloom slowly beneath calm skin. Invisible wounds grow roots inside, feeding on memories that never fade. I remembered laughter once shared freely, echoes now wandering without direction. Those moments felt like another lifetime, belonging to someone I used to be. My eyes searched darkness for meaning, finding reflections of unfinished dreams. Every dream paused midway through hope, left abandoned at the edge of reality. The ceiling became my silent witness, watching tears fall without judgment. It knew stories no one else heard, stories whispered only through breathing. Sometimes I wished for anger instead, because anger burns and disappears. But sadness stays patiently, turning hearts into quiet deserts. The wind outside touched the window softly, as if asking permission to enter. I almost opened it for comfort, but fear guarded my fragile peace. Loneliness spoke in familiar tones, a voice I recognized too well. It reminded me of empty conversations and hugs that never arrive. My eyes carried unsent letters, written in the language of regret. Every blink folded another message, never delivered, never erased. I tried to forget by remembering less, yet memories resisted disappearance. They returned stronger each night, holding fragments of lost warmth. The moon drifted slowly above me, a tired guardian of sleepless souls. Its pale light mirrored my feelings, soft yet endlessly distant. I wondered if healing truly existed, or if people simply learned endurance. Perhaps survival was mistaken for recovery, and silence mistaken for strength. My heartbeat echoed loudly in emptiness, counting seconds without purpose. Each beat felt like a reminder that living continues despite pain. I touched my face searching for answers, finding only traces of tired tears. Even my reflection looked unfamiliar, as if sorrow rewrote my identity. Somewhere laughter filled another room, a sound both beautiful and cruel. It reminded me of what once existed, and what would never return unchanged. My eyes held conversations with darkness, sharing secrets too fragile for daylight. Night understood without interruption, never offering false comfort. I walked through thoughts endlessly, corridors without exits or windows. Every door opened into remembrance. Every path returned to absence. Hope appeared briefly like sunrise, then faded before warming my heart. Still, I chased its faint glow, even knowing disappointment waited. Tears fell quietly, almost politely, respecting the stillness around me. They carried stories no words could hold, stories heavier than language itself. I asked silence why it stayed, why it refused to leave my side. It answered through emptiness gently, because you never asked pain to go. The truth settled softly within me, like dust over abandoned dreams. Perhaps healing begins with acceptance, even when acceptance hurts deeply. My eyes closed for a moment of escape, but visions followed immediately. Faces appeared, voices returned, and memories refused distance. I realized sorrow has patience. It waits without growing tired. It knows hearts eventually surrender and welcomes them into quiet understanding. Yet somewhere beneath all the darkness, a fragile spark still breathes slowly, not strong enough to shine brightly, but unwilling to completely disappear. And so I stayed awake again, guarding that small hidden light, because even silent eye pain knows one spark can survive endless night. Morning arrived without kindness, spilling pale light across tired walls. It revealed nothing new, only the same sorrow wearing daylight. My eyes resisted opening fully, afraid reality would begin again. Dreams were painful, yet gentler, because they allowed impossible reunions. The clock moved forward faithfully, unaware of the weight it carried. Each second pressed against my chest, reminding me that healing takes longer than time. I sat quietly beside my thoughts, like a stranger visiting old ruins. Every memory stood broken, yet sacred, a monument to feelings once alive. People passed me with ordinary smiles, their lives flowing like steady rivers. I felt like a paused moment, frozen between yesterday and never. My eyes searched the sky for answers, but clouds only drifted silently. Even nature avoided explanation, leaving questions hanging unanswered. The sound of footsteps echoed meaninglessly, as if walking itself became survival. Destination no longer mattered, only movement prevented collapse. I carried invisible exhaustion everywhere, a tiredness sleep could not cure. It lived deeper than the body, rooted somewhere inside the soul. Sometimes memories arrive gently, soft as a whisper of wind. Other times they struck suddenly, like thunder without warning. I remembered promises spoken softly, words once brighter than stars. Now they floated like faded echoes, unable to warm the present. My eyes burned again quietly, holding tears that refused escape. Even crying required energy, and sorrow had taken most of mine.